today's movie, we are given three distinct storylines, each of which is distinct from the others. This narrative depicts how, around 3 a.m., all the demonic spirits awaken and strange incidents happen to people. The name of today's first story is The Way. Here we see a wig shop where wigs were made, and a girl named May running it with her parents. May was good at working and she worked hard. She also has a younger sister, but she wasn't fond of working. One day, May's parents went out for some work while leaving those sisters home. Meanwhile, a lady sells nice hairs to May, but as she keeps the bag on ground, it starts moving weirdly, and seeing it, May's dog starts barking. Anyhow, May cleans the hair and starts making a wig of them. Meanwhile, a hand behind her tries to capture her, and May also feels that someone is standing behind her, but there was none when she sees behind. In the meantime, May's sister comes and tells her that she is going to a party tonight. She says, "So keep the door open because I will be back at any time." May completes her wig and puts her shop shutter down and goes to sleep. Their shop was inside the house now because it was late at night, so she went to wash her face before sleeping, but as she bends her head, her nose starts bleeding. She also takes medicine to stop it, but it was still bleeding. As she washes her face, the water fills in the sink, and when she puts her hand to clear the sinkhole, a bunch of hairs come out of it. She couldn't understand anything to see it, but then strange voices come from the hole. She sees inside the hole, but a hand comes out of it, and May gets scared to see it. She fell down, and then she wakes up, means it was just her dream. She wakes up and hears noise in her house. May goes and sees her sister with her friends. May sees her sister and says in anger, "You were going to party outside with your friends, then what are you doing here?" But May's sister doesn't listen to her and goes to her house's roof with her friends to party. During the party, a friend of May's sister brings a wig from downstairs and was kidding while wearing it. It was the same wig May had made with the hair that lady gave her. May also sees him doing this and asks her sister's friend to place the wig while scolding him. The sisters fight on this. Her sister says, "How can you scold my friends like this?" Meanwhile, when her friend was moving downstairs to place the wig, a hand from the wig strangles his neck and face. When they all come downstairs, while hearing the screams of that boy, they saw his separated head and was kept in the middle of the wigs. They all get scared to see this terrible scene and try to get out of the shop, but in a hurry, the shutter's key gets stuck in the lock and breaks. A friend of May's sister moves inside to get the other key, but outside they hear her screams. When they go to see her, she was just saying, "Someone help me." They don't understand anything. Meanwhile, that hand comes out of that girl's shirt and hits her with the wall and keeps hitting her until she dies. Seeing this, May's sister and her friend run towards the roof. May's foot gets injured, and May's sister's friend also separates from them. Then he sees the soul in front of him. It was the same soul with whom hair May had made the wig. She doesn't like that someone has removed her hair, but gets scared to see that soul and fell on the sharp nails laying outside, which stabbed in his body. May's sister's last friend also dies. Now only May and her sister were left. They run and come inside their shop. There was a thermal chamber in which May works for drying and melting hair. May's sister says, "Look, I will go out to call some help and you stay locked in this thermal." Meanwhile, the soul comes there and seeing May inside, she locks the thermal tightly. Later, she increased the temperature. May's sister also comes there after a while and tries to get her out of it, but the door wasn't opening. Then the thermal bursts because of the high temperature and there was a huge blast. After a while, May's parents also come home. May's sister calls her mom, but what is it? Her mom didn't see her and couldn't hear her. Then May comes and hugs her mom. May's sister sees her belly, in which the sharp glass was stabbed here. She finds out that she is dead, but May should have died because there was a blast in the thermal, in which she was locked. Now we see May hugging her mom, and her eyes were white, which means the soul was inside May. That's why nothing happened to her. Now whom the soul will end while coming inside May. Here concludes our first story. Now its second story's turn, named Corpse Bridal. At the start we see Obotos. He works in a mortuary to protect the dead bodies, and one day, he was sent to a house where he is to protect the dead bodies of a couple. Toz's duty was to stay in this house for a week and had to protect the dead bodies of a couple, because there was a ritual in their family that the dead ones would be kept in the home for a week, and there would be their favorite dish in front of their pictures, so that their souls would get peace. Toz was sleeping in their room at night. Meanwhile, A showpiece starts moving itself, but Toes ignores this. In the morning, when he was cooking, he hears voices from the room where the dead bodies were kept in coffins. When he checks, there was a lizard on the wife's coffin. As Toes reaches there, the lizard moves inside the wife's coffin. It moves inside that girl's clothes, and when Toes opens the coffin to take that lizard out, sees cut marks on that girl's neck that were stitched. As he touches that girl's bodied husband's coffin, collides with the wife's coffin. It seems like he is trying to stop him to not touch his wife, and being scared of it, Toes goes to another room while closing wife's coffin. He finds a bag there in which there was a camera and a CD. He sees the camera and finds that girl's pictures in which she was tied. Seeing this, he thinks maybe that girl's husband beat her. Meanwhile, that room's door knocks. When he checks, someone has tied that door with a thread, and when he chases that thread, he sees the girl standing in front of him, who was calling him. Meanwhile, that girl's husband comes from behind, suppresses her and takes her with him. He threatens Toes that if you love your life, leave our house. Then Toes wakes up, means this was his dream. The CD found in the bag plays as he wakes up, in which that girl's husband was beating her baldy while tying her. Seeing this, Toes thinks how evil her husband is that he is beating his wife like this. Then he goes to the room where the dead bodies were kept. He finds the wife's coffin open, and her corpse was also shaken. He feels that maybe this girl's husband isn't sparing her even after death. He is after her as a ghost. That's why Toes separates the husband's coffin from his wife's coffin, places it in a temple and ties it with a thread. Then he makes the girl's dead body fine. While coming to her dead body, during this, he sees that the thread with which that girl's neck was stitched he saw in his dream, the door lock, was tied with it. He becomes surprised to see this. Now when he was fixing her stitches while putting her on his lap, he finds her pretty and likes her at first sight. Toes always takes care of that girl's dead body and keeps her with him everywhere. Even he sleeps with her. He was sleeping and heard voices from the room where he kept the husband's coffin. He becomes surprised to see that the coffin was open and the husband's dead body was missing. When he returns to the room, the wife's corpse was also missing. Toes thinks maybe the soul of that girl's husband is doing all this. Meanwhile, a hand holds Toes's foot under the bed and then stabs a piece of glass in his foot. His foot starts bleeding, and he sees the husband's corpse behind him. It was lying in a corner. Here, Toes sees a vision that girl's husband made her tied because she tries to end herself over. On her insistence, her husband releases her one day, after which she took a piece of a showpiece and first cut her husband's neck. Later, she cut her neck. Similarly, they die. And the happenings in this house were because of that girl's soul, not the husband's soul. Toes likes. Toes understands all this and tries to run from the house. Meanwhile, he sees it's 3 a.m. at the clock and the girl suddenly holds his neck when he tries to escape. Due to it, he gets faint. After a while, he comes to his senses and finds himself in that girl's coffin. He screams a lot and tries a lot to come out, but the girl was sitting on the coffin. She will never let Toes get out of it. Maybe she is taking revenge on Toss that he has done wrong to her. Now it is the last 10th story named OT. We see a girl working in her office late at night. Actually, she was talking to someone through an app, and 2 employees of this office were going home after their overtime. As they moved toward the lift and pressed the lift button, there was a hung head in front of them. Seeing this, they get scared. The girl inside was still busy in talking. Suddenly, all the things in the office turns on. The computers were automatically turning off and on. Seeing this, the girl also gets scared and runs away from there. Meanwhile, we see 2 men in the office who were the boss, and today they were scaring their employees. They believe that the employees of their office earn money while doing overtime but don't work in the office. That's why both of them were doing this to teach employees a lesson. The employees standing near the lift understand that their boss were doing this with them as a fun. Well, now they come to their boss and asks permission to leave. They left and now their boss T was alone in the office while the other boss Karen went out to have food. T hears voices from the next door room and he was working. When he checks, he feels someone's shadow, but when he turns on the light there was none. He goes near the fridge and it was moving. Meanwhile, the boss Karen reaches there with food and asks, "What happened to you? Why are you so panicky?" He says the fridge was moving a while ago, and when he opens the fridge to place the food, there was none and he leaves after placing the food. He was still scared, and then, after a while, A witch comes out of the fridge. T gets scared to see it, and when he runs to Karen, he also sees monsters in him. Seeing this, T gets so scared that he falls and gets faint. Actually, 2 employees and Karen were pranking on T, but it's been a while, but he hadn't come to his senses. And when the employee checks if T was breathing, but he dies, seeing this, they get scared. The female employee was weeping, but Karen asks them to go home. I will handle everything, but do remember, don't tell this to anyone. Meanwhile, when the female employee moves near T, he holds her hand, which means he was also pranking them. They laugh at it. Karen asks them to stay and moves to bring some stuff from his room, but it's been a while and Karen didn't return. When T and the employees go to check, Karen ends himself. But this was also just a prank, which makes everyone furious because the fun was crossing the limits. Well, they were leaving the office when Karen asks the female employee to bring the keys and sends her to a room. But he gets shocked to see T's dead body there and gets scared. Karen and the female employee come to him. After hearing him screaming, they were also shocked. They think T is dead. Then who is the person with us? Karen runs from the office along with his employees, but then the light gone. The door that was automatic was also closed. Karen asks his employees to bring the key from his room. They get scared and go to take the key, but they see the dead body of Boss Karen. That means he died when he tried to end himself. They couldn't understand whether they should get scared or escape from there, being confused. They go down by stairs instead of the lift. On the other hand, we are shown in the office that Karen and T pranked the employees. The dead bodies they saw were just rubber statues that looked like T and Karen. Anyhow, Karen and T were leaving by lift, where they meet their employees. They say, sorry, forgive us. Today has become a little more fun. That the way you get scared, it was a lot of fun. They stay silent here. Now when the lift was about to start, the T gets a call from the building's watchman. It was 3 a.m. and the watchman says to employees of your office died while falling from stairs, and the ambulance is taking their dead bodies. It happened like when they were coming down the stairs like crazy, their feet slipped, fell down and they died. That means the employees with Karen and T in the lift were their souls. Karen and T understand to see them that no one can save them. As the lift shuts, it is shown moving down, means Karen and T are dead. Which of these stories do you like? Do tell us in the comment section. Here conclude the stories of this movie.